the hallway looks empty, so I think that's my cue for us to get started tonight. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are beginning a short 3-week conversation together about following Jesus in an election season, which is a potentially charged topic. So we'll get into it a little bit tonight and talk about why we want to talk about this, and hopefully I think we'll all have kind of a similar idea as to why this is important to talk about in our in our life and our times right now. So I want to start with a idea, and I want you guys to respond to me and tell me if you think that this is accurate or not. So I think that the church has a significant problem right now. It is primarily, I think, a problem born of perception, but that perception is grounded in experience of Christians and followers of Jesus. So let me explain what I mean by that. If you were to go and find someone that you barely knew, that barely knew you, and ask them, what do you think about Christians during an election season, what type of response do you think you might get from them? Okay. Best case scenario and worst case scenario.
Well, if you're a Christian, you may say, yeah, we're great. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? What other ideas?
Say one thing.
Hypocritical, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They might say that Christians seem a little hypocritical. Okay.
Some say that Christians don't show up to polls.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there may be some that are concerned that there aren't enough Christians voting. What else?
I hear people say mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Christians can be mean during political seasons. Okay. What else? Oh, okay. That we need to pray more. Yeah. Okay. Good. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. So they can immediately identify Christians' political flavor, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't think it's true all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask it this way then. What do you perceive as where do we as Christians stand in an election season, in a very political culture that we're in right now? Where do Christians stand? Are we in a good place? Are we at a crossroads? Are we in a difficult spot? What do you guys think?
Goes this way. Both ways are got the play.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. We're at a crossroads, and either direction that we take, there's speed bumps in sight, right? Okay, what else? I'm looking at Denver because he keeps looking like he's about to say something. He might not want to, though.
I was thinking, this is at least the third election ever that it's because it's shape our future right now. I bet everything's breaking with the last couple of years. I don't know, but it's like, I know when some people think they're elected, and they're still elected. Really, my life has changed me. Now I need to live as a Christian. It doesn't really matter. I think that should be devastating. Our focus is doing things that we behave like Christians all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It does seem like the stakes have never been higher, right? And I think what Denver is pointing out is that, honestly, the stakes are the same as the responsibility maybe at least are the same that they've always been, that we have a responsibility to follow Christ, and that hasn't changed. But it feels like the tension is heightening and all of these things. So my guess is that there is a view of Christians that exists out there in the world that I think is problematic. I think it's problematic that people perceive Christians as people who aren't what we claim to be during these types of seasons. That may not be true 100% of the time. I hope and pray that it's not true 100% of the time. But I do think that there's a perception out there that Christians claim one thing, but then all of a sudden a political season shows up, or maybe there's more than just that can take place, but certainly in a political season that takes our focus and our attention off of kind of where we say we believe and what we say we believe. When I've asked people this question that I know, some of them are people who are struggling with faith. Some of them are people who have left faith, but they wouldn't use this term, but I'm going to use it for them, is that they believe that the church has lost her soul when it comes to political seasons of life. They wouldn't describe it that way, but that's essentially what they describe. That when politics comes to the forefront of our national attention, it seems like this kind of Western United States of America version of Christianity, it seems like in those particular seasons that we have lost our soul. I'll talk a little bit more about this in a little while, but Josh Ross wrote a book called Choreology, and we're going to use some of the ideas in his book as a springboard, or I'm going to say it this way, I'm going to use some of the ideas in his book as a springboard for conversation over the next couple of weeks for us. And the way that he says it in his book is it can take hours, weeks, months, maybe even years for people to trust the witness of a Jesus follower, and that witness can be blown in a moment. And that rings true for me. I don't know if that rings true for you, but there have been people that I've encountered that because of one comment, because of one idea, they've said, you know what, it's not worth it for me to even consider Jesus because I see his followers doing this and behaving like this. And so that's a tremendous weight that's on each of our shoulders. And really, it's a tremendous weight that's on each of our shoulders, no matter whether it's a political season, an election season. We have a witness of who Jesus is. And we have a responsibility as followers of Jesus to live into that witness well. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm hoping to accomplish, or maybe I'm hoping not to accomplish in the next couple of weeks. And I really want you guys to hear this because it's very dear to me that you understand this about why I'm trying to lead this conversation for the next couple of weeks. The first of which is this class is not intended to be a class that will tell you who to vote for or what to vote about. So what I want to do there is I want to take some of the pressure off of all of us that I'm not going to tell you what I think is the right way to vote or not vote, or who the right person to vote for or not vote for is. That's not what the purpose of this particular class is. And the reason I really want you to hear that, in addition to a couple more things, is because I want you to know that my primary goal for this conversation is that I want all of us to simply image Jesus well during this season. My goal is not for a particular person or party or issue to be the thing that we focus upon. I want us to focus on imaging Jesus well. And that extends beyond the next couple of weeks. That extends really for those of us who have gone through the waters of baptism. That extends for the rest of our lives. That's our goal. And so that's what I want to do tonight. So don't worry. You're not going to hear Jake's interests as they appear politically over the next couple of weeks. You wouldn't be interested in that anyways, I promise. Okay, another thing that I want you guys to know about this class. We're not going to get specific about, like I said, me telling you who or what to vote about or vote for, but I do believe that each of you should vote however your conscience leads you to vote, particularly in line with how the Spirit is guiding you. So I will encourage that. And I will throw in as well, this is just interesting historically, that churches of Christ and people who are a part of churches of Christ have historically chosen not to participate in politics. which is just an interesting thing to think about during a season like this. Why did Church of Christ people do that for so long? And it's primarily because they wanted to stand as this countercultural witness to Jesus that stood apart from being defined by the categories of the politics of the day or the issues of the day. And so I'm not going to present who to vote for or not to vote or anything like that, but I do want to encourage each person in here that if you feel led by your conscience and by God's Spirit to vote in a particular way or to not vote for a particular person or issue or something like that, I want to encourage you to do that, right? And so I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you not to vote, and I'm not going to tell you to vote. Does that make sense? I'm not telling you very much at all so far, basically. It's kind of where we're at right now. Okay, and then this one, this third one really kind of dives us into the topics that I want to visit tonight and really want to focus in on. Josh in his book talks about this, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to focus in on this tonight. But for those of us who claim that Jesus is Lord, who follow Jesus, our primary allegiance is always to him and to his kingdom, right? So other allegiances that we feel need to be underneath of that allegiance. So as Americans, we have an allegiance to our country. As members of this congregation, we have an allegiance to this church family. As members of a particular family, we have allegiance to that particular family. But those things need to come under the lordship of Jesus. Our primary allegiance for followers of Jesus is to God, who we meet in the flesh in the person of Jesus, and to his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, hopefully that sets the stage a little bit. I'm not telling you much, but I am telling you, let's focus on Christ, right? I hope that's a good place to be. Our theme word for tonight is allegiance, like we were just talking about. And I believe that one of the most radical, world-altering ideas that ever happened, that ever was said, is three simple words. Jesus is Lord. The early church pronounced this freely and willingly and often, and they did so in a context that it seems like for us, three simple, innocent words, it was actually much more radical and dangerous in the context in which they spoke it. When Christians spoke and said that Jesus is Lord, they were declaring that a Jewish, itinerant, homeless preacher was their teacher, their rabbi, their master, and that Caesar was not. Caesar is Lord became a common phrase in the Roman Empire, really several hundred years after the life of Christ. But it was a common enough idea during the time of Christ that to declare that someone other than Caesar was Lord and master was to come into direct conflict with the Roman Empire. Part of the reason why Jesus was crucified was because he was a threat to the empire of Rome. Now, I'm not sure that Rome fully understood that when they crucified him. Part of his crucifixion was because they wanted to pacify the Jews, and the Jews were claiming that Jesus was a threat to the Roman Empire and to their own national identity particularly. But Rome crucified Jesus because he was a potential threat to the lordship of Caesar. And Christians started declaring, even after he had been killed by his competitors, that even so, Jesus is Lord. And so those early Christians...
Wouldn't it be fair to say that he was able to see Caesar?
Yes.
Because he really wasn't a threat.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. To a nation, to an empire like Rome, anyone who claims authority and power that is not the authority and power of Rome or Caesar is a potential threat. Jesus would not have engaged Rome the way that Rome would have engaged a threat. Jesus would have chosen other means by which to engage the powers of his day, and in fact did choose other means. When the soldiers came to arrest Jesus and Peter draws his sword to cut off the ear of the high priest's servant, Jesus tells him to put his sword away, right? Because he doesn't come with the same weapons that the empires and powers of our world do. He comes with a different motive, a different weapon. His primary weapon is love. And so